Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long-course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hey, this is John Harris.
And this is Rob Bozovich.
And Endurance is for Everyone, and this is the Endurance for Everyone podcast. Hey, Rob, how was your week?
I'm doing good up here, John. How you doing?
Yeah, it's pretty good. So this is episode 105, and I have to start off by geeking out a little bit, Rob.
Feel free, geek away.
You know. Well, see, it's gonna be one of those weeks because I'm gonna geek out, and then I got a little bit of a rant. So you're gonna get both sides.
This is what people wait for, John.
You know, in the old shows, there was actually talk that Andrew and I had that we were going to have a weekly John rant section. But really, I'm not a ranting guy. I get on a roll sometimes, but then I've calmed down in my old age a little bit. But yeah, there's something that was happening.
Funny to hear you say it that way, John.
Yeah,
you're just so mild mannered.
I'm so mild-mannered. I really am. I mean, if you met me in person, you wouldn't even know it was the same person. But now, some people might disagree with that. But for the most part, I'm a pretty calm guy until my buttons get pushed. But yeah, I have to geek out a little bit. You know, I'm a big football fan. So
yes, sir.
Those games yesterday. And oh, by the way, happy Martin Luther King Day. You're working today, though, right?
In manner of sorts. I mean, you and I are recording early. Then I'm going to leave and go for a run. And then I'm going to eventually make it to the office probably around noon. But yes, my office is open and I will be putting some time in there.
Yeah. You got one of those jobs you can do that. That's nice, though, that you can do that.
It's nice until, my paycheck is less than my team members and I still have to figure out how to pay them.
Ah, gotcha. I didn't know you had team members. I thought it was just you.
I mean, shortest answer, and then we can get into talking about football, is, I'm an independent contractor, and I can hire as many people as I want, or I can hire no people. So the more people I employ, the less I take home, but therefore the more I have to do. So you balance that out and
exactly
see what works best, staff accordingly.
Yeah, gotcha. So, the NFL's had a bad year, in a lot of ways. Attendance is down. Ratings are down. They had the whole snafu with the national anthem stuff, but it was games like yesterday. The game Saturday sucked. Everything happened like it was supposed to. New England beat the crap out of Tennessee. Everybody knew that was going to happen. And then just the Eagles and Falcons game was just boring. But the games yesterday, I don't know. Someone put something in the water in those two games yesterday. They were exciting from start to finish. The first one were, of course, the Steelers in Jacksonville, and Jacksonville ends up winning the game, 45-42. So nobody saw that coming, right?
Right.
But it was a great. You look at it, and just like I said, I'm geeking out a little bit. But 5 touchdowns from Ben Roethlisberger. No one has ever thrown 5 touchdown passes in a playoff game and lost. So
well, now there's a statistic that shows it's happened.
Congratulations, Pittsburgh. Now I have to be a Jaguars fan for a week, so I'm going to blame Pittsburgh for that.
Sorry, John.
Because they're going to have to go up to New England, and we can't have New England win again. Please, God, no. Sorry, New England fans. I'm just tired of it. And but then yesterday you have the Vikings and the Saints, and if you did not see, honestly, even if you're not a football fan, go to online and look at the end of that game. So to quickly put it out there, New Orleans goes up by 1 point. And the Vikings get the ball back. There's 10 seconds left in the game. The Vikings are done. There's no way they're going to win this game. 10 seconds left. Casey Keenum, the quarterback for the Vikings, goes back and just throws a ball down the right side. The receiver Diggs goes up and catches it like up high. The New Orleans Saints safety goes to hit him and misses him. He comes down, almost falls, puts his hands down, gets to his feet, and there's nobody behind him. 61-yard touchdown pass. And the Vikings win the game. It's like, I've never seen anything like that. My whole apartment complex, you can hear people yelling because they couldn't believe what they just saw.
What? It's whichever team you're rooting for, it's good to see close games, close competitive games, and or like nail biters, like interesting, like, and this isn't football, but it's one of those, high school, our basketball team was, playing, and it was one of those very, very, very close games, very important. And when I say it this way, the bleachers on both sides are completely packed, and it's one of those, like, a quarter second left, the guy on the other team throws the ball. When I say, like, not half court, 3/4 of the court, just one of those just pitch it and hope type of things.
And it goes
in. I mean, nothing but net, swish. I mean, when I say both stands erupt, it's cheering. It's not booing. It's from us losing. It's oh yeah. It's just everyone. The whole place on its feet, and that those make for the games that you remember forever and make fans, make you want to come back.
Right. So exactly. And so next week now you have New England, Jacksonville going to New England, and Minnesota going to Philadelphia to see who goes to the Super Bowl. Now, the thing about this is where the geeking out part comes in a little bit. Three of those quarterbacks, you have Casey Keenum for the Vikings. You have Bortles, UCF product from Jacksonville, and Foles for the Eagles. And then you have Brady. Okay. So everybody knows Tom Brady, right? The other three have not only not won a Super Bowl, have never even been to a Super Bowl. So you got three totally, and it shows that you don't really need a franchise quarterback to get to the championship game, do you? Everybody talks about having a franchise quarterback. Brady's the only franchise quarterback in that group. Okay. Not only that, remember if you go back to the season, Sam Bradford was the starting quarterback for Minnesota until he got hurt. So Foles had to step in. And Bradford was just activated. So Bradford is backing up Nick Foles for the Eagles, Casey Keenum for the Vikings. All three of those quarterbacks played for the Rams at one point. That's, they were all.
So you're saying they saw something and they saw it correctly?
Yeah, all three of those quarterbacks are ex-Rams. That's just amazing to me. So. That end of my geek. So let's pull for Jacksonville, and let's pull for. I don't care on the other side. I think Minnesota's going to win, but who knows? I was wrong this week. I was wrong up and down the board this week, but most people were. I wasn't wrong about New England. I knew that was going to happen, but I didn't see Jacksonville having a chance against Pittsburgh, and they did it. But that Jacksonville defense is no joke. I mean, if you want good defense, Jacksonville, what it is Jacksonville out Pittsburgh. They played a Pittsburgh game.
And what does somebody not from the Pittsburgh area mean by that? Let me ask
Pittsburgh.
You, John.
Pittsburgh is a big play offense and tough defense, and a smack you in the mouth defense. Jacksonville does the same thing. They are Pittsburgh. They are like the new Pittsburgh, if you look at how they play, which is why you see a 45-42 game. I've
always said, as a Pittsburgh fan, and it's hard to say that, literally having watched 2 quarters of football this entire season. I mean, hey, life's been in the way. Right. But Pittsburgh, I always want to root for them, but it's usually a safe bet to bet against them because of the spread. Yeah. And I always have, for decades now, they play up to whoever they're playing to, or they play down. It isn't like they don't stay this level. It's like not like, and then they maybe step up a little bit for New England or step down against the Browns. I mean, it's majority of the game are much closer than they ever should be. And I don't know. They just have always, for a couple of decades now, seem to play up or down.
Yes.
You very rarely see very large blowouts from them.
Right. So let me say that too. Is like I didn't watch a lot of. I watched every Dolphin game that was on TV this year. So I basically saw 2 quarters of football too.
Was the TV stuck on?
So basically, I saw 2 quarters of football the whole season. So I'll end it there. But that was amazing. Even if you're not a football fan, you had to appreciate that yesterday. That was some good play. So should I start on a rant now?
Please, John, rant away.
Please, John. Are you in Vinny Torch's group, the private group?
Am I? Yes. But that said, though, is I do very little on any of them, but occasionally I'll see something pop up. But I don't actively go into it, seeking it out, answering and looking and so forth.
Right. So there a couple of things happened in the last week, and something happened after the one that like kind of got me. So I'm going to talk about that one too. But Vinny Torch's group. If you don't know Vinny Torch, he's a very outspoken, you would say, right? He can be very provocative. Let's use the word provocative. With innuendos and things like that. It's a very open group. Let's just put it that way. The first thing
innuendos? He flat out says things.
Well, I know, but I'm trying to be nice. So
let me ask you, ask, and then just say, and I'm not gonna say it. His intro, or as the outro, I guess, you know what I mean. Put life into living, and do it with enthusiasm.
Yep.
Do you remember when he first said that?
It was like in the very beginning. I mean, it's been there almost as long as I can remember. But
correct.
Yeah.
Do you know what it's in reference to?
No.
If you don't instantly have the answer, you don't know.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone and everyone. It literally, if I may be incorrect on this one, I'm going to say 5 episodes.
Yeah.
I believe it is the first episode of theirs, because I actually went back and I say like binge listened to them.
Yeah.
But I missed. Then they pulled them down. I missed episode, I'm going to say like 60 through 65 or 55 through 65. There's like a 10 episode where they had come off and he was like a year or two later before he was doing that like $3 pay it to hear it.
Right.
I encourage, when I say he blatantly says things, go out and listen to the first 5 episodes. You'll see what he's saying. And it's just hilarious that it's 1,000 shows later, he's still using that.
Still using it, right?
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, I came in, I think I started listening to his show at episode 13, and I've said it before, but my coach at that time, this is when I was first starting, she gave his podcast to me. I never listened to podcasts before this. She gave his podcast to me as homework. She told me, you need to go listen to this podcast. And so it was about episode 13. So I've been there since, pretty close to the beginning. I don't know if I ever heard the first 4 or 5. But anyway, so the innuendo thing, I'll go into second. The first thing was, if you're in Vinny's group, it's a no sugar, no grains group. You know what you're getting, right? It's right in the title. I don't understand what people don't understand about the word no. Right. So here's the thing. Someone brought up, someone asked a question, and as soon as someone asks a question like this, they're going to get blasted about sweeteners. What kind of sweetener is okay to use? Now it started off good. It started off very calm and said, look, all sweeteners are bad. If you're in Vinny's group, the line is no sweeteners, especially if you're first starting out. You need to kick that habit. You need to get that out of your system. Nobody needs sweeteners. You don't need it. So, of course, then it keeps on going. But what happens is that inevitably somebody comes in and says, well, I use blah, blah, blah in place of sugar, and it doesn't affect me, so it should be okay to use. And that's when it starts, right?
Now, not having seen the thread, may I ask the question, and I'll try to differentiate here. Did the person say, and I'm just making it up, I use honey, as such, that should be okay for everyone? Or did they say, I use honey, you may want to try it?
No, it was the that should be okay for everybody because it's natural. But it wasn't even honey. It was like using artificial sweeteners. And my stance is always, now I used to be really a zealot back in the day, about this stuff. I'm more of a, you know what, if you want to use it, fine, go ahead and use it. I'm not going to tell you not to use it. But I will tell you that it doesn't make a difference in your body. Your brain's still going to release insulin if it detects sweetness, right? You're not doing yourself any favors. So what happens is that people that say that, and this person in general and specifically said this, is that they start arguing the fact, right? That, well, it's better than sugar. Well, no, it's not. Actually, I'd argue that sugar is better than artificial sweeteners, because at least sugar is a natural thing. It's processed, yes, but I mean, if you're putting honey or maple syrup, real maple syrup, or anything like that, at least it's a natural product. It's not chemicals. So I would almost argue that it's better to put sugar in something than that crap. But it's where they go wrong is where they start arguing about it and trying to make their point. It's like, dude, it's okay if you want to use it. And it was a guy, but it's okay if you want to, but don't come in here and tell us that it's better or that it's healthy. I'm using bunny quotes, bunny ears. It's not, everything starts with food, and it's just, your body is like a computer. If you're a data guy like I am, the bottom line is data is garbage in, garbage out. You put crap into the computer, you're going to get crap out. If you put crap into your body, that's what's going to happen. And you may be fine right now, but you're damaging your body. You are. And you may not see it for a while, but you are damaging your body. So, God love you if you're 140 pounds and can run 7-minute miles and you eat all the sugar you want. That's fine. Good for you. The majority of people can't. And to present it like it's okay to do that because it's okay for you to do it is just wrong. And, of course they got bombarded, And I used to feel sorry for people that got bombarded like that. I don't feel sorry for them anymore, because you know what that group is. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is that someone posted it was a ridiculous question. It was like and I'm not even going to say it on here, but I don't know if I can. So it was basically that if you do a clone of yourself and have relations with yourself what is that? It was like a stupid question, right? It was just a question, like one of those philosophical questions.
How does that play into anything diet related?
It doesn't, right? It's just a ridiculous question, but it's Vinny's group, that's what they do sometimes. They stupid questions like that. And one woman is just beside herself saying, my 14-year-old is on here. She doesn't need to be seeing this stuff. It's like, okay, this is when I have to get in there.
Mistake one.
Why is your 14-year-old in this group? Did you read this group before you let her in here? Right? So my response was like, take some responsibility. She shouldn't have been here in the first place. Regardless of what's going on, what being said, if you don't like it, you can leave. Yeah, right? But exactly. You know what this group is like. You're not new here. You've been here for, everybody's looking, how long has she been in here? She's been in there like, a year. You know what this group is.
Yeah.
It's like, and what I likened it to is like, that's like taking your daughter to see Deadpool and then complaining that there's sex and nudity in Deadpool. You knew it's an R-rated movie.
See, not knowing anything about most of the comic-y stuff, and I thought that's what that was. I don't know, Marvel, DC, I don't know which one it is. Yeah, I would not know that, but you could, as you said, you can just look at the rating, and it tells you why it's rated that way. Is it rated R? Violence. Is rated R? Brave nudity. Whatever. You know what I mean? Or
if you look at
sexual situations, however they say it.
Right. If you look at Vinny's podcast on iTunes or wherever you go, there's an E next to it every time.
For excellent.
For excellent. E for excellent. E. If everybody doesn't know, if there's an E, next to it, it means explicit. If you go back to some of our shows, especially some of the Back of Pack Endurance, when we had Vinny on, there's an E next to that episode. Because if something gets said, I don't want to cut it because it's, it's real, it's who he is, blah, blah, blah. You know what you're getting. So if there's an E next to it, that means there's something in there that maybe you shouldn't be playing if there's a 6-year-old in the car with you. You're right?
Right.
So we're warning you. I just, this whole want to blame everybody else and not take personal responsibility, it just drives me insane. And I guess that was my right. Those are my rants. It's not a big rant, but my point, I guess, is that, especially on the first thing, is that it's okay if it works for you. But the majority of the time, especially when people are trying to, I use my old adage, and I used it in there, and the guy, it went right over the guy's head. He didn't see the similarity at all. That if someone's an alcoholic, you don't tell them, "I'll just have one drink. It won't hurt you." If someone's an alcoholic, you don't say, "Well, you know what? You probably have problems with liquor and beer. Why don't you just try wine?" That's natural. Yeah. That's natural. Wine's natural, right? So that should be
just
okay.
brought it.
You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say that to an alcoholic, right? And when he came back and said that's not a similarity at all, and I said, well, okay, there's the problem. You don't see sugar addiction as a true addiction. You don't see it as a problem. You don't believe that, and the fact that you're in this group and don't believe that and don't subscribe to that, you start wondering why you're in here, because that's not what they talk about. Mm-hmm. So, in that kind of joke, it's like, that's like Tom Barbieri all over again. That's what he did. He would come in here. Let me ask,
and just for point of discussion. Okay, so you are saying sugar addiction, it exists. It's a real thing.
Yes.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Mm-hmm. That being said, though, and are you talking about Vinny's group in particular? When I said these are sorry, I'll ask a couple of questions, and it's kind of the final one's the real question. Are you saying that his group, the only real place for it is people that should believe that? Because, and my counterpoint or my question is, to me, Vinny's group is not that. To me, Vinny's group is the, once again, going to his, your good intentions have been stolen. It is don't eat these two things. And it's hidden, and here's just baseline. Here's what it is. You know what I mean? But I think it goes to many different groups or demographics that would pull into there, because some people, I don't think somebody has to truly believe that sugar addiction's a real thing. Although I do, you know what I mean? I mean, right. They could just be somebody who, once again, you can be on the opposite. I don't know if it's necessarily opposite end of the spectrum. I think they can be, as Vinny talks about, the vegetarians or the vegans who have been pounding pasta and getting, heavier, that, they're coming to it from the opposite end, you know what I mean? Or maybe it's somebody that's 140 pounds but wants to be 120 pounds, you know what I mean? That's still, 15% weight reduction that they're looking for, which can be substantial and important to them. You know what I mean? They may be able to tolerate a little bit more, but not have that addiction like some of us might. Yeah. I mean, is that where do you fall with that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I didn't mean to, I guess, present it that way, but my point, I guess, is that I think Vinny's group is a little bit more, they have a lot more zealots in there than we do. We're a little bit more open. We're a little, I think we're a lot nicer to each other in our group, for sure. They tend to attack, and that might be just because I'm not going to allow that to happen, right? If you say something that's really totally out of whack of what we believe, and you're not being helpful, you're not going to be there long in my group.
Yeah. I must interject my I'll say trying to be funny / ignorance, and a public apology to Miss Heather Bloom Bozovich, my wife, because I put up the photo yesterday of the icy road. Okay. Yeah. And, the people were responding, and my wife, being I will say sarcastic, at risk, because she went out for her run. But I told her these roads are good, these roads are bad. She went on the better roads and then posted a photo of a perfectly clear 50-yard stretch with no ice, no snow, anything. You know what I mean? In response to mine. And said, really? Are they that bad? To which, when she came back and she's like, like she was just like, hey, look at me. And I'm like, well, hey, look. And I went and clicked delete. And I'm like, admin. And she got upset with that. So I am publicly apologizing because she was being funny. I was trying to be funny. And I don't want everyone to think that Clearfield is that completely that backwards, that every single road is absolutely, completely snow and whatever. And the reason I had picked that one in problem, and I'm once again, now this gets into a second level, and this isn't sounding judgy. She's coming down in her times, and she's doing better with her running. I think she averaged maybe a 13-minute mile the other day, which is good, and that's improving for her. But it's a little different when you're trying to go a little faster, especially whenever, I'm out there. The sidewalks, forget about it. You might get a 20-yard stretch of completely clear, but then you'll have where somebody cleared it, but it melted a little bit. Now it's like a layer of ice, and some of them are, just completely untouched. So you're literally it's like running through untouched snow. So that pushes me into the street. And I want to stay to the non-busy streets as I'm out there, because I don't want, if I'm running up the street, I don't want to be where there's traffic. And then she was going for, I don't know, 3-4 miles. I don't even quite know how far she went. I was going for 8 miles. So I didn't want to repeat the same, 1 mile loop over and over and over again. So I was out exploring many different parts of town, and I'm saying 70-80% of our roads aren't good. Even if they are good, you come to that part where you might then face an oncoming car, and now I have to hop a snowbank, and you get snow in your shoe and ice, and it's not good. The conditions weren't fantastic. It was a fair representation, and the reason I actually used that road is it was somebody that they had plowed it, but there's a little bit of snow that was left, which is preferable, because it gives you a little bit of traction, a little bit of grip, right? Exactly. If you hit, where they try to clear it perfectly, but then it turns to that ice, I'm still 210 pounds. You're running, and all of a sudden, you hit a slick spot of ice. That's a lot of force to try to stop.
Yeah, I think I would probably hit 200 miles an hour with my weight.
That's it. Just be gone.
I'd be doing a Chevy Chase, like in Christmas Vacation, like.
I'm thinking Bambi on ice myself, or Thumper, or whatever. That's what I'm picturing.
Okay. So I just think that part of it is that, I'll go back to my youth, and say that I remember vividly cigarette commercials being, on TV. Right? Was that
okay?
Was that before your time? Do you ever remember cigarette commercials?
Late 80s. I can't say I really remember seeing them, but hey, late 80s is when I was real young. I was born 83, so
I remember.
Then you talk into the 90s, but it wasn't as prevalent in my recollection as whenever I hear Vinny's Group and people talking about snack wells and stuff like that. I remember all those type of things. I don't so much remember the smoking on television.
Yeah. Well, there used to be ads of doctors. 3 out of 4 doctors recommend Benson and Hedges for the menthol, for the cooling effect, things like that. And it was all over the place. And I almost, and I know other people have written this before, I'm not alone in this, but I see that this sugar thing that's coming out in the last maybe 10 years, 5 years, it's almost along the same line to me. I think 30 years from now, people are going to look at us and say, why were they eating so much sugar? Didn't they realize this? Yeah. Because, it's kind of the same way we look at smoking now. It's like they had cigarette commercials on TV. What the hell's wrong with them? I think it's really going that way. And I feel that sometimes you have to have the courage to stand up and stand alone in something that people just aren't willing to say or to believe in. And it's kind of like a cigarette smoker, I don't know if you grew up with smokers. I did. And they would say, everybody's got to die of something. That's one other thing. You got to die of something.
And I won't mention any names, but chewing tobacco, and let's just say kids from my high school, and they'd say the exact same thing. And they're like 16, 17, and they're like, "You're gonna die of something. I want to pick my killer." I'm like, that's just stupid.
It is a stupid thing to say. Yeah, it's like my point is always, and I know I've said this before. My point is always, well, if I'm going to die, I'm not going to die of something that I did. Hopefully, I'm not going to, and especially if cancer, that's not something you want to die of. Believe me, you do not want that.
No.
So,
of course, you could look at, and I'm going to flip it and I'm going to change it, but the same thing. And I'll even say it. My brother says to me, you know what I mean? Running's going to destroy your knees. Another one of these old things that I don't know how it got started. Is it true? Isn't it? Well, studies said this. Now studies say that. But I've known, or you see a lot of people that are runners for life, and it's not so much they get injured. I'll say from the act of running, they may be injured while running, like slip and fall or overuse. There are things that can happen, but if you do it right and pay attention, when I say you should be okay, my brother, like I said, he says to me, "You're going to ruin your knees," but then he flips and says, "Well, hey, listen, when we're 60, you're going to have bad knees from running, and I'm going to have bad knees from being fat. Point is, we're both going to have bad knees." I'm like, well, if you're going to have bad knees from being fat, why don't you
take care of that?
I don't think I'm going to. Yeah, why don't you at least try to mitigate that?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, he's telling you that because he doesn't want to run, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how people do it in their heads, and that's where I'm kind of where I was going with what this. He wants to put something sweet in his damn coffee. Okay, that's fine, but don't present it like it's okay, because it's not. And it's not. It's going to hurt you. But if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. It's up to you. It's kind of like smoking. It's like you want to smoke in your house, go ahead and smoke in your house. Just don't get it around me. I don't want to breathe it. Yeah. That's fine. It's your life. It's a free country as of now. So, so you do what you want to do, but don't present it like it's okay. Or because it doesn't, because I smoked, 80 years and I didn't die of cancer, it means it's okay to smoke. It's not true.
Right.
Smoking will kill you. I'm not saying sugar is going to kill you. I'm not making that equation, but it's not going to help you. And it does cause problems. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg of this stuff about how sugar really messes you up. And, and then you're going to have people argue and say, well, the body needs sugar. The body is going to make the sugar it needs. Okay. It will.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like the baby's going to get the food it needs when you're pregnant. It's going to get the food it needs at your expense. Sometimes it's going to survive. So, it's like, just, if you want to do it, but don't try to make it sound like it's okay for everybody to do it, and
right.
That's where I start getting issues with it. But you mentioned knees, and now there was another point I was going to talk about today, because a lot of discussion came up about treadmills.
Yep.
Over the week, and I'm anti-treadmill. I don't like treadmills. And I know you. And I know
you live in the land of sunshine and puppies, John. Why would you even be inside on one?
Right, and I know there's places where you really. You have to use them, right? There's just no.
Yep.
It's kind of like getting on a trainer, a bike trainer. Everybody hates them. Not everybody. Some people like them. I do have issues that, though, I see people in my state that prefer running on a treadmill to running outside, and I've seen that. It's like, why? It's like you live in this gorgeous place because it's too hot. Really? It's like you're out there running in the cold, right? You're out there running. I saw the ice beard.
I try to get out. Some days I don't, because now, and I'll go to, I'll say the treadmill is easy, and I will defend myself, even though I do want to get outside as much as possible. So once we're done recording here, I am gonna run home, and then I will get changed up and come back in. Okay, go to work, as I said.
Right.
That said, is the last week, and then I could tell you tomorrow, most likely tomorrow, Thursday, and maybe Friday even, I'll say it's going to be back to the treadmill. And not that I love it whatsoever, but there's a major convenience, and for me, it's because I drive into my office, park, walk a half a block to the YMCA. I drop my child off at daycare, drop straight downstairs, get on the treadmill, do my workout, shower, and I'm back at work, and then I don't have to travel, anything like that. And or once again, like last week was some very cold days, so I'm not running pre-dawn and I'm not running after it gets dark at night, so it limits it to a certain amount of time, and there's only so much time in that.
Right,
but
right.
I
But
do. I don't want to say get out as much as possible, because hey, I could run outside every single day, but that's literally time that I'm taking away from being in my office, which I don't mind missing 1 hour a day. 1 hour, I'm sorry, 1 out of 5, I should say. But if taking off 5 or 7 hours, by the time you're getting ready and all of that, that's a quarter of your work week.
All right. So I thought, because of all that discussion about treadmills, that I would, say something about what is the difference. And the difference is basically that running outside, when you're on the ground, well, the basic difference is that you're moving and the ground's not moving, right? Mm-hmm. On a treadmill, the ground's moving. You're trying to keep up. On outside, you're moving. The ground's not going anywhere. There are small undulations in the ground. It makes you a stronger runner, because your body is constantly, even if you don't know it's doing it, your body is constantly making corrections. As you run on the ground, especially if you're doing trail running, your body is constantly. I get so when I do a road run, or just even a 3-mile run or a 4-mile run on a sidewalk, or on a trail, not a off-road trail, but just anything like that. I get I'm tight, but I'm not sore. When I do a trail run, I am sore. My quads are sore, my butt's sore, everything's sore. And that's because my ribs get sore, because your body is constantly altering itself to get through that. You don't get that on a treadmill, right? So how do you try to mitigate that on a treadmill? And you do that by varying the workout. You change the pace up a little bit. You change the incline up a little bit. Every minute, like go up 1%, go down 2%, go up 3%. But you have to do that. You have to kind of mess with it. If you're just running a straight treadmill, you're not really, you're not going to feel the same effect. So, and I think what you have to really pay attention to on a treadmill, and see, when I talk like this, I'm always worried that Megan's going to yell at me, because
well, that's why I'm just sitting here. I'm just going to let you
just let me do it.
Give me enough rope, John.
But when you're on a treadmill, your body, especially at the beginning of the run, is you're more likely to do a few things. You're more likely to overstride, and you're more likely your foot's going to be the brake, because you're trying to get used to that speed, So the focus has to be on short, quick steps and keeping your feet directly underneath you, So if you're trying to like overstride and things like that on a treadmill, you're actually hurting yourself, and that's where you're going to get hurt. Now, the 3 times I've hurt my knee were all on treadmills. I've never hurt my knee outside. Okay. And when you look at, I just read an article about this. If you look at runners that complain about sore knees all the time, if you look at where they do the majority of workouts, the majority of the workouts are on treadmills. And that's where they get sore knees. Because you're not, I feel so, and it's a balance issue too with me on a treadmill. My balance sucks. When I'm fine when I'm like trying to undulate, on a road or something like that. But I get on a treadmill, I feel like I'm going to fall over. I don't like it. So, as far as my training, I will, even with a bike, I'm going to tell everybody, like when I talk to the cyclists I train, you need to get outside. Spin bikes are fine for a while, but you need to get outside. You need to get saddle time. You need to be out there, because even on a trainer, we all know that if you're on a bike trainer, well, I don't know. I'll say this personally. I hurt more on a bike trainer than I ever do riding a bike outside. It's
I agree with that.
My ass hurts, my arms hurt. I hate it. But I get outside and I don't have the same pain.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's because of that. It's because, the road's different. Your whole body's moving a different way.
You've said the same thing 4 ways, but without saying it this way, and that's
you pull it
it's
in.
The
Rob.
Same difference between you. It's the same to me difference as doing I'm going to say free bench versus a machine that emulates the bench press. Because when you're using the machine, it's just straight up. Back, but whenever you going back to the conversation where we had talked about the chains on the, it gets progressively heavier as you're bench pressing it. Plus, also there's the swing and the variation.
Right.
You're recruiting more muscles. I'm not saying it's a total body, but it is more total or more complete or more muscles being used than if you were just on the machine. Same thing. Treadmill versus outside. Treadmill's a machine that isolates a specific movement, and there's many. Let's just let me defend it. Not that I personally, I'd rather be outside. And that's what I put in the little doc that'll come up on next week whenever you put it on the blog. I felt better after running outside 8 miles yesterday in 13 degrees or whatever it was than any of my 6 mile runs on the treadmill. To the point where it's like, and this was a question that was brought up, hey, if my watch and the treadmill vary, what do? Well, a couple of them, I try to make sure I hit 6 miles on the watch and then I'll correct it to the 6.2, 6.5, whatever. So I know I have the distance. A couple of them, nope. I mean, it was like, as soon as that treadmill hit 6, boom, done. And I correct my watch to the 6, and it may have only said 5.5 because I just absolutely could not stand to be on that treadmill anymore. And I felt, like I said, better being outside. But what are some of the advantages of the treadmill? Well, hey, when I was doing my speed work, it was much easier to do my speed work interval. Yeah, I guess that's speed work, to crank and hit the button, whatever, 8-10 times to make it go faster, and then kick it back down. It was and that also is helping me develop a feel for that exact specific pace. Granted, assuming that belt and machine is calibrated and it's going correctly, So, it's good, I think, for that. If you don't have a track available, or like up here, like I don't want to run sprints on potentially icy streets, but I can go out for a quote, easy pace 6, because if it's, 54 minutes or 58 minutes, really doesn't make a difference. It still puts me in the appropriate range that I'm supposed to be training in. But if I need to dial in a specific speed, treadmill is going to be better, and that's just the targeted, focused for that specific workout, and that comes back to, I guess, the other point I was saying is safety, and or time flexibility. It opens up more of a time range for working out, and safety as in I don't have to worry about ice, I don't have to worry about traffic, any of that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, and that's the I look at the basic difference, right? Speed work obviously much easier. As I was talking to my client, that obviously you're going to be able to control intervals on a spin bike easier than on a bike. Not necessarily. I mean, you don't have to pay attention to it as much on a spin bike or on a trainer than you do outside. But you can create a workout in Garmin. Your watch will beep at you. Your 10,000 or 1030 will beep at you and tell you to kick it in and things like that. There are ways to do that.
There are, but I'm going to go back to it. If I'm trying to dial in, and like I put my paces out there and I can't remember what they are, but I think my interval pacing should be, 7:30 to 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
As the hard, and then the easy, the recovery is like a 10, and then, repeat that 12 times. Well, your watch can beep, your watch can buzz, but it isn't like you can. It isn't like setting ringtones on your phone where you can have it beep and say speed up. If you're running it, and you have multiple variables going on, and it all was going to have the same beep or the same buzz. So when my watch buzzes, is it telling me I'm in the zone for my heart rate? Is it telling me I'm in the zone for my pace? Is it telling me I'm out of it? So then you're trying to turn your watch and look at it while running at full speed in my case, on streets, not a track. You know what I mean? Much easier on a treadmill than outside.
Yeah, and I think it holds true even with swimming. That, Amy would love this, but if you're training for a triathlon and you stick to the pool only, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have problems. You have to get in open water. You have to, because it's different. It's just like if you only run on the treadmill and then you go out to run a 5K on the road, it's different. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. Same thing on the bike.
I agree with you. Let me ask you what differences you're saying.
Well, even in open water. Now, we've done this before. We know the pool is a very enclosed thing. You actually have a wall that you can touch every 25 yards or 25 meters, right? Mm-hmm. In open water, you don't have that. You don't have that 25-meter touch the wall, rest 2 seconds and go, whatever it takes you to turn around. Now, if you're doing it the right way, you should be turning around at that plus, and not hitting the wall, just doing a flip around and go. But you don't have waves. You don't have people on top of you. It's usually a temperate temperature. Temperate temperature, is that right? You can't say it like that. It's usually temperate. It's a heated pool. So you can go into, most pools are like 78, between 75 and 80 degrees. I don't know what they are up there, but that's here. And you get out in open water, it could be 65, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to deal with that in a pool. So there's it much like the road, I guess, is that your body is going to react differently to waves hitting it, and for a swell, to be in a swell. I was talking to people at the Team and Training event Saturday. We had our first real bike and run Saturday, and it's very odd. I'll say this real quick. It's very odd to be like a senior person on this team. There's like 3 of us that have actually done triathlons before, and nobody else has.
Yeah.
And I remember being that at the very beginning. And it's funny, I was talking Megan, just another Megan, Megan Srvanovich was on my first team. And it was me, her, Jennifer, and Kate Tombillo were brand new. We had never done this before. And now here we are, Megan's on this team, and we're like the senior people. We're leading the pack. We're the one driving it a little bit. We're the experienced people. So it's very, very odd.
Right.
Kind of a different way of looking. What was I saying though? I totally.
Open water is different than, but then you said this is your first run and bike.
Yeah, but I guess the point is that, I was telling them that it's always funny it's not always funny, but when we see people come from the north and they see the course when we're standing on the beach and we're getting ready to do the shakeout swim the day before the race in St. Pete, when it used to be along the pier, and that first year it was like the weather was awful, and then the buoys out on the water were just like almost hitting the surface of the water, right? There might be a video on my Facebook still showing that. And the looks on the faces from the teams from like Ohio and Minnesota who have never seen open water, have only been in the pool.
Yeah.
It's just, they don't know how to deal with it. And it's a big, even if it's just mental, and I'm honest with people. It still freaks me out. Swimming is not, it's a very anxiety provoking thing with me. Because of my breathing issues and my, the damage I have in my throat. I'm constantly in my head with that. The only thing that combats that is to get out there and do it, and do it a lot. And the only way your ass isn't going to be sore sitting on a bike is get there and sit your ass on that bike for 20, 25 miles, which is the race distance. Yeah, and it's going to be sore at first, and it's going to suck. And people saw that Saturday. We only did 10 miles. First ride, but people were hurting. Oh my God, my butt is so sore. Yeah, it's going to be for a while. And if you only do this once a week, like if you only do this every Saturday, it's going to stay sore.
It's going to take a lot longer to acclimate.
Yeah, it's not going to get any better. You need to be on that bike a few times a week. So, you got to make the time, right? So,
right.
That's all I have to say about that.
All right, Forrest.
And that's all I got to say about that. I did see something I wanted to bring up. I asked you about it last night if you had ever heard of it. Have you ever heard of a hash run?
In my response, and then I went back out and looked at it, and I thought I knew, but I didn't. So I don't want to confuse and say what I thought. So let's just say simply no. And what are you seeing from it?
It's very interesting. I actually saw it in Triathlete magazine this month, and now I'm not. I forgot to grab the magazine, so I don't know what the website is. But
the link you sent me, and I forget now. I can go back and look, or
something
I'll pull it up
.net.
here, get hash or something. But does it link back to the Hash House Harriers? Is that what
that's
you're
who started?
Me?
Yes, that's who started it. The Hash Out Harriers. Hash Out Harriers. Is that it?
I thought it's Hash House, and the link you sent me was go to thehash.net.
That's what it is. And there you can find like hash runs in your area. And there are some in Tampa. I never heard of this before. But it sounds interesting to me. And I guess I love the warning in Triathlete magazine. If you go this month and look at it, it's like one of the warnings they tell you is that don't bring kids. Because But so basically what it is that they have someone called the hare that takes off running first, and he has flour or chalk with him, and he just starts marking a course as he's running. You have no idea where he's going. So he can go through property, trespass, it can be anywhere. So then like he's gone 30 minutes and everybody else starts going, and you have to follow this route. Wherever he or she goes. It's very much, it sounds kind of like a trail run type of community to me, but it just seems like, well, that's a kind of a cool idea, right? But I guess it's been around for years. I've never heard of it. People do it during the winter, I guess, to stay in shape, but I like the kind of the aspect of it being like a mystery when you start off is kind of interesting to me. I don't know if they'd interest you at all. But
very much. But like once again, and I'm trying to Google now as we're talking. But the Hash House Harriers, they're I'm pretty sure it's drinking related, which has surprised me that you're intrigued by that because you're against that with the whole triathlon groups meeting at bars.
Yeah, and I am, and then that's the one thing I didn't like that about it, but I get, the Hash House Harriers. See, I see it too. I think that's that group. I mean, obviously they're on Wikipedia, everything like that. So part of it might be drinking, which I don't like. I don't see. I think what it is that Hash House. Yeah, see, there's a CNN.com Hash House Harriers, a drinker's guide to running. So that part of it, I'm not intrigued by. What I'm intrigued by is this hare going off and running and just going wherever.
Yeah.
And
now, if I may interject, if I may interject, and I won't ramble too much, but and that is, and I thought of this too. After you and I had sat down, we had done a podcast, and then I went down to a friend's in DC area, and I'm not saying I completely changed my thought on it, and that is. So what do I like about what you're saying what these folks do? I very much like like you're saying, the randomness to it and the group dynamic, almost like a November project, which I think is pretty cool when I'd love to go to one. It's kind of, you have an idea, but it's going to be different every time, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be social. Okay. And, I don't necessarily think that like fitness should be, I don't think you should end your your runs should start and end at the ice cream parlor, you know what I mean? But one of those a month, there shouldn't be a problem with it. Okay, I'm gonna say shouldn't be, you know what I mean? And that being said is where I kind of say change my thought on it is. So and off topic, but people may get it or not. John Harris has a dream or a vision where he is, seeing himself in the future completing a race, wearing a trucker hat, I think a long beard. He's thin and gaunt and in shape and is just in chill mode. I'm paraphrasing there, John. That's the vision that you see, okay? What vision do I see for myself? I see myself going out with friends for a 20, 30, 50 mile bike ride, whatever it is, and ending back at my place and having a beer. I don't like drinking. I don't care. I don't drink now, really. So why do I see myself going out and doing a ride, coming back and hanging out? Well, it's the group dynamic, but it's also, when I say the finish line, the goal, it sounds weird. It's to be able to have one or so without affecting and worrying that I'm going to balloon to 300 pounds again and so forth. You know what I mean? I see myself being a lean cyclist that can, you know what I mean, have one with friends. And that's why when I say I go back to it, there's in Alexandria, I think it's called Port City. It's the little local microbrew, you know, and they're close to a rail trail, and they have several different running and or cycling groups. Like one of them are like, I think they call it like trails and ales or something. Like you go out and run so many miles, then you come back and have a beer. They're not saying come here and get hammered, but they're also, you know, they have bike rack setups outside, and it's a much different atmosphere down there where there are tons of people that jump on, go for a 15, 20 mile one-way ride, stop there, grab a little bite to eat, you know what I mean? Maybe have a beer, get a growler to go, then they go home, and then that's like a little bit of beer to have through the week. And now granted, most of them are what I envision when I see a cyclist, you know what I mean? They're in their kit, they're 140 to 165 pounds, but it's also a lifestyle for them where they are walking more. They're going to the metro. They're buying their foods fresher. So their body isn't as broken as my central Pennsylvania one-day pizza, one-day McDonald's, one-day, you know, bar food, whatever. You know what I mean? But it's a whole lifestyle that's integrated, and they're going way back to the beginning of the episode. It works for them. As such, they may think everyone can do it. And I'm not to the point where I can do it, but we all have our finish line. We all have our goal. I'd like to get there. I'm not saying I want to become a drinker, but I could say I see the purpose for it, and I think it does more good than bad. You know, like I see this Hash House Harrier not as and now they do, and once again, they might have an explicit on their group, you know, because that is it. But let me just say it from my end, not say let's be honest, but let me be honest. Hey, if this group of people can go out and run 6, 8, 10, 12 miles several days a week, and then they can go and drink a whole pitcher, and that works for them, hey, good for them. Would they be healthier, I'm using air quotes there because it's kind of subjective, if they didn't do as much drinking? Probably. But the fact of the matter is, could they be much worse if they weren't doing any of the running and just did the drinking? You know?
Yeah. And
it's a middle ground for them.
Well, and I think I would have more of a problem with it if it was a requirement. And from what I've read about it, is that it seems like a fun atmosphere. And if you don't drink, they don't make you drink. Right. So it is like I'm like reading it. The one rule is that everybody has to have a nickname. Nobody goes by their real name. Yeah. So I'm looking at one. It's like this one is in Lima, Peru, this group. And the name that the person they're talking to is Virgin Lips. You know, so everybody has like this nickname that they have to go by. And you're given this name, I guess, after a few runs. And the way they say, I'm going to read it just to make sure. So 20 to 120 people run for 2 to 3 hours. It's not a marathon. The hash is not a competition. If you're overly competitive, you may be punished for being a show-off. Punishments can also result from failing to acknowledge the beer stop, or wearing new shoes, or saying someone's real name instead of their hashtags. Hashes all go by nicknames. These transgressions can lead you to wearing a toilet seat around your neck or doing a down, which means you must chug your beverage or pour it over your head if you don't drink. So that's kind of fun to me. Like if you make a mistake, I read this on the other article, if you wear a race shirt, that's a punishment. You're not allowed to wear race shirts. That's considered showing off.
Well, that goes back to that competitive. You know what I mean? Right. That's like it's saying, look what I do versus I'm here to have fun.
Exactly right. So, I'm looking at some of these nicknames that they interviewed like 4 people. This one's this nickname from Boston is Boston Creamed is his name. Lady Godiva, Sparrow Fart. Things like that. That's fun. They say that kind of stuff is fun to me. It's kind of funny.
I implicitly agree. I have nothing against that.
And this is what they tell you is like, this one person from Switzerland says you have to be a bit non-PC tolerant and accept that it can cross the line. I've seen teetotalers as members, and they enjoy themselves fine, though it tends to be the exception.
Yeah.
So they're not going to, I guess, and this is why they tell you not to bring kids, because these people can get a little crazy. It just seems like a fun atmosphere. I mean, you got to have a sense of humor. Just says folks without a sense of humor or adventure should think twice about participating. This is not about competition. Agreed. This is about having fun. So I just thought it was an interesting little concept. So thought I'd bring it up because I'd never heard about it before, and obviously this has been around for years. So that's a lot of talking for an hour, huh?
Yes, sir.
So
it's about an hour. It's about 60 minutes worth.
Yeah, I know. We're getting good at that, right? So anything else you like to add this week?
I don't think I have anything else to interject. Right, I feel like I did, but I didn't write stuff down. So maybe if it pops back in my mind, we'll make a note and we can go over it next week.
All right. Okay. So that is episode 105. Thanks to everybody for listening and supporting the show. Remember to head over to iTunes, Podbean, wherever you listen to the show at, and leave us a review. And actually join the group on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/groups/teamE4E. If you use Garmin, if you use Garmin Connect, if you use Strava, most of those groups that we are on there, if you search for Endurance for Everyone, Endurance for Everyone or teamE4E, it should come up. If not, give us a call. We'll make sure you get connected in there. The Facebook group is obviously a closed group. We do have some rules there, so you'll have to request access to it, but we've let most people in. So until next time, we will talk at you.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.